What happens when the Supreme Court blocks a president's tariffs and the president responds by raising them anyway? That's exactly what just happened, and it could reshape global trade, markets, and prices worldwide. Today, we break down why the court struck down Trump's tariffs, why a new 15% global tariff is now in play, and who the real winners and losers could be. Let's dive in. The story starts with a major legal blow. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that many of Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs were illegal, saying the president overstepped his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA. The court's reasoning was simple but powerful. Tariffs are essentially taxes, and under the Constitution, Congress, not the president, controls taxation. This decision immediately put billions of dollars in tariff revenue at risk and forced U.S. Customs to prepare to stop collecting the affected duties. But the story didn't end there, because within days, the policy pivot began. Instead of backing off tariffs, Trump changed strategy. He moved to impose a new global tariff, now set at 15%, using a different legal authority under the Trade Act of 1974. Here's what makes this important. The tariff is described as one size fits all. It can last up to 150 days without Congress. And it effectively replaces the struck down tariffs. In other words, old tariffs ruled illegal, new tariffs legally re-engineered. This is classic policy whack-a-mole, and markets are watching closely. The international reaction was immediate. European officials are already warning they will not accept tariff increases, stressing that existing trade deals must be honored. Meanwhile, the EU has delayed votes on key trade agreements, Asian economies are monitoring closely, and trade partners are raising concerns about uncertainty. Why the anxiety? Because a blanket 15% tariff raises import costs, disrupts supply chains, and risks retaliation. Historically, broad tariffs tend to escalate into wider trade tensions. Interestingly, markets have remained relatively calm, at least for now. Analysts note only modest moves in U.S. futures and some gains in Asian markets despite the legal turmoil. But the real risks may be delayed. Short-term effects include higher import costs, margin pressure for companies, and possible price increases for consumers. Medium-term risks include trade retaliation, supply chain reshuffling, and slower global trade growth. And there's one massive wildcard: refunds. Because the court ruled the earlier tariffs illegal, lawmakers are now discussing potential refunds. Estimates suggest up to $175 billion in tariff revenue could be at stake. If refunds happen, importers could get a windfall, government revenue could take a hit, and political battles in Congress could intensify. But, and this is critical, the refund process is still uncertain and likely to face legal fights. So for now, the money question remains unresolved. Step back, and this moment reveals something bigger than tariffs. We're seeing a power struggle over who controls U.S. trade policy. The court has drawn a line on emergency powers, the White House is testing alternative legal routes, and Congress may soon be forced to step in. For investors and businesses, the message is clear. Trade policy uncertainty is back. Tariffs remain a central economic weapon, and volatility risk is rising. The Supreme Court may have struck down the old tariffs, but the global trade battle is far from over. If you want clear, no-hype breakdowns of the biggest finance stories shaping the markets. Like the video, comment your take on the tariff move, and subscribe to Finance Buzz with Harold because the next market shock is already forming.